My name is Tamara Washington. I'm 42 years old, and the night my husband was making dinner, I got a text from my sister that said I can't abort it. I replied for him, "Come over, let's talk. My wife isn't home today." When the doorbell rang, my husband's face froze like death itself had knocked on our door. Before I tell you what happened next, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment below what city you're watching from. Your support means everything to me, and I promise you, this story will shake you to your core. Now, let me tell you how my entire world shattered in one moment, and how I made sure everyone who betrayed me paid the price they deserved. It was a Thursday evening in our beautiful home in Charlotte, North Carolina. The kind of home Jerome and I had dreamed about when we were young and struggling, barely making ends meet in that cramped apartment near the university. Now we had crown molding, hardwood floors, a gourmet kitchen with marble countertops, and a backyard where we'd planned to watch our future children play. We'd worked so hard for this life. 15 years of marriage, countless sacrifices, building our careers brick by brick until we finally had everything we'd ever wanted. Or so I thought. Jerome was standing at the stove in the kitchen, wearing that navy blue apron I'd bought him for our anniversary last year. The one with King of the Kitchen embroidered on it in gold thread. He was humming along to some old Luther Vandross song playing softly from the speaker, stirring a pot of collard greens that had been simmering for hours. The whole house smelled incredible. Catfish frying in cast iron, mac and cheese bubbling in the oven, cornbread cooling on the counter. My husband had gone to 3 different stores that afternoon to find the freshest catfish, the best smoked turkey for the greens, the sharpest aged cheddar for the mac and cheese. He told me all about it when he got home, kissing my forehead, telling me he wanted everything to be perfect for his queen. His queen. That's what he called me. I remember smiling when he said it. Remember feeling that warm flutter in my chest that after 15 years, he still wanted to make me feel special. I had no idea that in less than an hour, I would discover that while he was calling me his queen, he'd been treating my baby sister like his empress. I was sitting at the kitchen island, pretending to flip through a magazine, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. It had been somewhere else for 2 weeks now, ever since I'd found that pregnancy test hidden under the passenger seat of Jerome's car. I'd been looking for my sunglasses, and there it was, wrapped in a CVS receipt, shoved way back where he thought I'd never look. Positive. 2 bright pink lines that had burned themselves into my memory. At first, my heart had leaped. I thought maybe Jerome had bought it for me, that he was planning some romantic surprise to suggest we finally start trying for a baby. We'd been talking about it more and more lately. I was 42, he was 44. And we both knew time was running out. But then I looked at the date on the receipt. 3 weeks ago, on a Tuesday afternoon when I'd been at work, and I hadn't taken any pregnancy test. My period had come right on schedule that month, just like it always did. So whose test was it? My stomach had dropped like a stone into dark water. I'd sat there in that car for 20 minutes, just staring at those 2 pink lines, my hands shaking, my mind racing through every possibility. An affair. My husband was having an affair. And whoever she was pregnant with his child. I didn't confront him. Not then. I'm not the kind of woman who screams and throws things and makes a scene without knowing all the facts. I'm a senior project manager at a Fortune 500 company. I solve problems. I gather data. I build strategies. And that's exactly what I did. I started watching. Waiting. Checking his phone when he was in the shower, monitoring our bank accounts, paying attention to every late night at the office, every weekend work emergency. For 2 weeks, I played the perfect wife while I collected evidence of my husband's betrayal. And then tonight, while he stood there making me dinner, humming love songs, playing the role of devoted husband, his phone lit up on the counter between us. The screen glowed in the dimming evening light, and I saw the name before he did. Nia, with a red heart emoji. My sister. My baby sister. The girl I'd raised after our mama died when she was just 16 years old. The girl I'd worked 2 jobs to put through college. The girl who called me her second mama, who'd sat at this very kitchen counter crying about her first heartbreak while I held her and told her she deserved better. The message preview was short, but it told me everything I needed to know. I can't abort it. We need to talk. I can't abort it. Those 4 words detonated in my chest like a bomb, but I didn't move. I didn't scream. I didn't let my face show even a flicker of the absolute devastation that was tearing through me. Because in that moment, everything made sense. The pregnancy test in the car. The guilty looks Jerome had been giving me lately. The way Nia had been avoiding my calls for the past month. The way she'd canceled on Sunday dinner 3 weeks in a row with different excuses. Work, not feeling well, plans with friends. My husband had gotten my sister pregnant, and he'd been pressuring her to get an abortion to hide what they'd done. I felt something inside me die right then and there. Not just my love for Jerome, that had been dying slowly over the past 2 weeks as I'd uncovered little pieces of his betrayal. No, this was different. This was the death of my ability to trust, to believe in family, to think that anyone in this world truly had my back. If my own sister, the girl I'd sacrificed so much for, could do this to me, then who could I trust? Nobody. The answer was nobody. But I didn't let it show. I sat there, perfectly still, perfectly calm, and I watched Jerome chop vegetables for the salad. The rhythmic sound of the knife against the cutting board was almost hypnotic. Chop, chop, chop. Each strike felt like it was cutting away pieces of the life I'd thought I had. Chop, chop, chop. 15 years of marriage. Chop, chop, chop. 26 years of sisterhood. Chop, chop, chop. All of it lies. Jerome turned around with this big, beautiful smile on his handsome face. "Baby, come taste this and tell me if the greens need more vinegar," he said, holding out a spoonful. His voice was so warm, so loving, so genuine that for a split second I wondered if I was crazy, if maybe I'd gotten it all wrong. But then I looked at that phone sitting on the counter, that message from my sister about not being able to abort his child, and I knew. I knew with absolute certainty that the man standing in front of me was a stranger, a liar, a betrayer. I walked over and tasted the greens. They were perfect, just the way I liked them. Spicy and tangy with just enough sweetness from the turkey. "They're delicious," I told him, and kissed his cheek. His skin felt cold against my lips even though the kitchen was warm from all the cooking. Or maybe I was the one who'd gone cold. Cold all the way down to my bones. "Good," he said, grinning with pride. "Only the best for my queen. Go sit down. Dinner's almost ready." My queen. There was that phrase again. I wondered if he called Nia his queen too. Or if he had different pet names for his pregnant mistress. His baby girl. His sweetness. What lies had he whispered to her in whatever hotel rooms or cars or dark corners they'd been meeting in? What promises had he made? Did he tell her he'd leave me? Did he tell her he loved her? Or did he just tell her to get rid of the evidence of their sin and keep her mouth shut? While Jerome was distracted at the stove, I quietly picked up his phone. My hands were steady even though my heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I knew his passcode. Of course I did. It was our wedding anniversary. June 15th. 615. The day we'd stood in front of our families and friends and God and promised to love each other, forsaking all others, until death do us part. The irony of using that date to protect his infidelity was so bitter it made me want to laugh. Or maybe scream. Or maybe both. The phone unlocked. And I opened WhatsApp. Nia's conversation was right at the top. I didn't open the new message because I didn't want the blue check marks to show. Instead, I scrolled up through their history, and what I saw made my stomach turn. Months. This had been going on for months. Since last summer. 8 months of messages between my husband and my sister. 8 months of "I miss you." And "I can't stop thinking about you." And "When can I see you again?" 8 months of them planning their secret meetings, talking about what excuses they'd use, laughing about how clueless I was. There were voice messages too, but I couldn't bring myself to listen to them. I didn't want to hear my sister's voice saying intimate things to my husband. I didn't want to hear Jerome's voice speaking to her with the tenderness that should have been reserved for me alone. The text messages were enough. More than enough. I found the message from 3 weeks ago where Nia told him she'd missed her period. His response. Don't panic. Could be stress. Get a test and let me know. Then 2 days later, she'd sent him a photo. The same pregnancy test I'd found in his car. Her message with it said, "What are we going to do?" And Jerome's response, cold and clinical, had been, "You need to take care of it. I'll give you the money. There's a clinic in Colombia. Nobody will know." But Nia hadn't taken care of it. According to the messages, she'd made an appointment twice and canceled both times. She kept saying she wasn't sure. She needed to think. She needed time. And Jerome had gotten increasingly angry. "This is not negotiable," he'd written just 5 days ago. "You can't have this baby. It will destroy everything. Be smart, Nia. Be smart." As if being smart had anything to do with the situation they'd created through their betrayal and selfishness. As if the problem was her hesitation and not the fact that my husband had been sleeping with my sister for 8 months and gotten her pregnant. But tonight's message was different. Tonight, Nia had finally made her decision. "I can't abort it. We need to talk." She was keeping the baby. She was forcing Jerome's hand. And judging by the panic I could sense even through text messages, Jerome had no idea what to do. Well, I knew exactly what to do. I typed out a response. My fingers cold and steady on the screen. "Come over. Let's talk. My wife isn't home today. We can figure this out together." I hit send and watched the blue check marks appear. Message delivered. Message read. Then 3 dots appeared as Nia started typing a response. "Okay, I'll be there in 30 minutes. Perfect." I took a screenshot of the entire conversation and sent it to my own phone. Then I carefully deleted the evidence of what I'd just done, making sure Jerome would have no idea I'd responded to Nia's message. I placed his phone back on the counter at the exact same angle, in the exact same spot. And then I sat back down at the kitchen island and waited. Jerome served dinner a few minutes later, plating everything beautifully like he was some kind of chef from a cooking show. Golden fried catfish, greens glistening with pot liquor, mac and cheese with a perfectly browned crust on top, fluffy cornbread with honey butter. It looked like a magazine spread. It looked like love, but I knew better now. I knew that you can make everything look perfect on the surface while it's rotting from the inside. "This looks amazing, baby," I told him. Because that's what he expected to hear. That's what the good wife says to her husband who spent hours making her dinner. Even if that husband is a lying, cheating betrayer who got her sister pregnant. We sat down at the dining room table. The nice one we'd bought from that furniture store in Raleigh. The one we'd saved up for because we wanted quality pieces we could pass down to our children someday. Our children. What a joke. Jerome already had a child on the way, just not with me. He talked while we ate. Talked about his day at work. About the new project his team was starting. About his boss who was considering him for a promotion. He was animated, excited, completely oblivious to the fact that his entire world was about to collapse. I watched him talk, and I wondered how he did it. How did he sit across from me every night, look me in the eye, tell me about his day, and never once let slip that he was living a double life? How did he kiss me good morning and good night while thinking about my sister? How did he make love to me, which he had just 2 nights ago, while his mistress carried his child? The food tasted like nothing. I moved it around my plate, took small bites, forced myself to swallow even though every mouthful felt like I was choking down glass. Jerome didn't notice. He was too busy talking about the future, about how his promotion would mean more money, about how we could finally start seriously looking at houses with better school districts. For the children we'd never have now. For the family that would never exist. Because while he'd been planning our future with me, he'd been creating a completely different future with Nia. I looked at the clock on the wall. 7:45. Nia's apartment was across town. Maybe 40 minutes in evening traffic. She'd said she'd be here in 30 minutes, but she'd probably be a little late. Nia was always a little late to everything. It used to frustrate me when she was younger, when I was trying to teach her responsibility, trying to make sure she understood that being on time was important. I'd lectured her so many times about it, and now she was going to be late to the most important confrontation of her life. The thought almost made me laugh. Almost. "You're quiet tonight," Jerome said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. His hand was warm, gentle. The hand that had touched my sister's body. The hand that had held her, caressed her, made her believe he cared about her. I looked down at our intertwined fingers and felt absolutely nothing. "Everything okay?" "Just tired," I said, giving him a small smile. "Long day at work, but this dinner is exactly what I needed. Thank you for taking such good care of me." His face lit up with pleasure at the compliment. He squeezed my hand. "Always, baby. Always." Liar. We finished eating and Jerome started clearing the dishes. He insisted I go relax in the living room, that he'd handle the cleanup. Such a considerate husband. Such a modern man. Doing his share of the housework. All our friends were so jealous of me, they always said so. "Girl, you're so lucky," they'd tell me. "Jerome cooks, he cleans, he treats you like a queen. Where did you find him? And does he have a brother?" And I'd smile and say I was blessed. That God had given me a good man, that I didn't take him for granted for a single day. What a fool I'd been. I went into the living room and sat on the couch, the expensive leather one Jerome had wanted. The one I'd thought was too much money but agreed to because he worked hard and deserved nice things. I could hear him in the kitchen, running water, loading the dishwasher, whistling that Luther Vandross song, so content, so secure in his deception. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Nia. "Almost there. Is T really not home?" T. That's what Nia had called me since she was little, short for Tamara, but also for the role I'd played in her life. T for the woman who'd been like a mother to her after our real mother died. Our mama had been killed in a car accident coming home from her night shift at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. Drunk driver ran a red light and hit her head on. She died instantly, they told us. Didn't suffer. Like that was supposed to make it better. I was 29 years old when it happened. Married to Jerome for just a year. Still trying to figure out how to be a wife. Nia was 16. A junior in high school. Still a baby in so many ways. Our father had died when we were young, and Mama had been everything to both of us. When she died, I didn't even hesitate. Nia moved in with Jerome and me into our tiny 2-bedroom apartment. She took the second bedroom that we'd been planning to use as an office, and I became her legal guardian. I worked 2 jobs to support all of us while Jerome was still in graduate school. I was a project coordinator during the day and waited tables at night while Jerome studied for his MBA. Nia would come home from school and do her homework at the restaurant where I worked, and I'd sneak her free food from the kitchen. On weekends, I'd help her with college applications, drive her to SAT prep classes, take her shopping for prom dresses and homecoming dresses and graduation dresses. I was there for everything Mama would have been there for. When Nia got accepted to Spelman, I cried harder than she did. I was so proud of her. My baby sister was going to go to college, was going to have opportunities Mama and I had never had. I paid her tuition, her room and board, sent her money for books and food and all the little extras college kids need. Jerome and I struggled financially for years because of it, but I never regretted it. Not for a second. Nia was my sister. She was my responsibility. She was my heart. And this is how she repaid me. By sleeping with my husband. By getting pregnant with his child. By sneaking around behind my back for 8 months while I loved her and supported her and welcomed her into my home every Sunday for family dinner. The doorbell rang. It was 8:07. Right on time, actually. Maybe Nia had learned something about punctuality after all. In the kitchen, Jerome's whistling stopped abruptly. I heard him set something down hard on the counter. Who could that be at this hour? He called out, his voice tight with sudden tension. "I'll get it." I called back, my voice calm and sweet. "Stay there, baby. Let me see who it is." I stood up slowly, smoothing down my blouse, taking a deep breath. This was it. The moment I'd been planning for 30 minutes. The moment I'd been preparing for, in my heart for 2 weeks. The moment when I would stop being the victim and become something else. Something colder. Something harder. Something that wouldn't hesitate to destroy the people who'd destroyed me. I walked to the front door, each step deliberate and measured. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I was ready. I reached for the doorknob, turned the lock, and pulled the door open. Nia was standing on my front porch, her hand raised like she'd been about to knock again. She was wearing jeans and a loose sweater, her natural hair pulled back in a puff, minimal makeup on her beautiful face. She looked young. She looked scared. And when she saw me instead of Jerome, her entire face drained of color. "Tita Mara," she stammered, taking a step back. "I thought," Jerome said. "I mean." Her eyes were wide, darting past me into the house, looking for him, looking for an escape. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her. Really looked at her. At the sister I'd raised, the girl I'd sacrificed for, the woman I'd loved more than almost anyone in the world. And I looked for any sign of remorse, any hint of shame, any evidence that she understood the magnitude of what she'd done. But all I saw was panic. Not guilt, not sorrow, just fear of being caught. "Hello, baby sister," I finally said, my voice soft and cold as winter rain. "Are you here to see my husband?" Nia's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She looked like a fish gasping for air. Behind me, I heard Jerome's footsteps approaching. "Baby, who is it?" he called, and then his footsteps stopped abruptly. He'd seen her. He'd realized what was happening. And in that moment, I knew without turning around that his face had gone pale as death. The silence stretched out, thick and suffocating. Nia was frozen on the porch. Jerome was frozen in the hallway behind me. And I was the only one moving, breathing, thinking clearly. "Well, don't just stand there in the cold," I said, stepping back and pulling the door open wider. "Come in, Nia. We're family, aren't we? Mi casa es su casa. Although I guess you already knew that, since you've been making yourself very comfortable with my husband." Nia's eyes filled with tears. "Tamara, please, I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can," I interrupted, my voice still gentle, still calm, which somehow made it more terrifying. "I'm sure you have a wonderful explanation for why you've been sleeping with my husband for 8 months, for why you're pregnant with his baby, for why you've been lying to my face every single day while I paid for your life, your education, your future. Please, do come in and explain all of that. I'm absolutely dying to hear it." I was standing in the doorway, blocking her escape route, and Nia knew it. She knew that if she ran now, if she turned and got in her car and drove away, this would follow her forever. She'd have to face me eventually. She'd have to face our family, our father, our church, everyone who'd known us as sisters. And the story of what she'd done would spread like wildfire. So she did the only thing she could do. She stepped inside. As she crossed the threshold into my home, into the house that Jerome and I had built together, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. She'd walked into my trap willingly. She'd come here thinking she'd find Jerome alone, thinking they'd figure out their little problem together, never suspecting that I'd been the one to invite her. And now she was exactly where I wanted her. I closed the door behind her, the lock clicking into place with a finality that seemed to echo through the whole house. "Jerome," I called out sweetly. "Look who came to visit. Our dear Nia. Isn't this a nice surprise?" Jerome had made it to the living room entrance. He was standing there, with one hand gripping the door frame like he needed it to stay upright. His face wasn't just pale. It was gray. His eyes were huge and terrified, bouncing between Nia and me like he couldn't quite process what was happening. The phone he'd been holding had fallen to the hardwood floor with a loud clatter, but he didn't even seem to notice. "Tamara," he started, his voice hoarse. "I can explain." "Oh, I know you can," I said, cutting him off with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Both of you are just full of explanations tonight. But first, let's all sit down and be comfortable. We're civilized people, aren't we? We can have a civilized conversation. Nia, come into the living room. Can I get you something to drink? You must be thirsty. Are you thirsty? You're drinking for 2 now, after all. Got to stay hydrated." Nia flinched like I'd slapped her. She looked at Jerome desperately, silently begging him to do something, say something, save her from this situation. But Jerome was useless. He just stood there, mouth opening and closing, completely frozen by the reality of his 2 worlds colliding. I walked past him into the living room, and after a moment, Nia followed me on shaking legs. I gestured to the armchair facing the couch. Sit there, sweetie. Make yourself comfortable. My voice was so pleasant, so kind, and that made everything worse. I could see the confusion and terror in Naya's eyes. She'd expected me to scream, to cry, to attack her. Instead, I was being the perfect hostess. Nia perched on the edge of the chair, her hands twisting together in her lap. I noticed she kept one hand near her lower belly, a protective gesture. Protective of the baby. My husband's baby. The baby that should have been mine if my husband had been faithful. If my sister had been loyal. Jerome. Sit down, I said, still in that pleasant, deadly calm voice. He stumbled over to the couch and sat as far from me as possible, like I was a bomb that might explode. Smart man. Too bad he hadn't been smart enough to keep his pants zipped. Now let me get you both something to drink, I said, standing up. Nia, what would you like? Water? Juice? Milk is supposed to be good for pregnant women, isn't it? Or would you prefer tea? I have that fancy herbal tea you always liked. The one with the peach flavor. Remember? I always kept it stocked just for you because you were my sister, and I wanted you to feel at home here. Water is fine, Nia whispered, not meeting my eyes. Water it is, I said brightly. And Jerome, sweetheart, would you like some tea? You look like you could use something calming. Jerome just shook his head, unable to speak. I went into the kitchen, and I could feel both of them sitting in that living room, in absolute terror. Not daring to speak. Not daring to move. I opened the cabinet and reached right past the beautiful crystal glasses we used for company, the Waterford set we'd gotten as a wedding present from Jerome's parents. My hand stopped at the package of cheap disposable plastic cups shoved in the back, the kind you buy in bulk for barbecues and kids' parties. I pulled one out, filled it with tap water, and put it on a tray. Then I took out two of our best china teacups, the ones with the gold rims that we only used for special occasions. I made tea in both of them. Earl Grey with a little honey and lemon. Exactly the way Jerome liked it. The contrast on the tray was stark. Two beautiful, valuable cups, and one piece of disposable garbage. I carried the tray back into the living room and set it on the coffee table. I placed the plastic cup of water in front of Nia with deliberate care, making sure she saw what I'd given her. Then I handed Jerome his beautiful china cup and kept the other one for myself. I sat down next to Jerome, close enough that our knees touched, and took a delicate sip of my tea. Nia was staring at that plastic cup like it was a snake. She understood the message. You are cheap. You are disposable. You are not worth the good dishes. You're trash that I'll throw away when I'm done with you. So, I said, settling back into the couch cushions like we were about to have a pleasant chat about the weather. This is cozy, isn't it? The three of us together. Like family. Oh wait. We are family, aren't we? You're my sister, Nia. And Jerome is my husband. So that makes us all. What? What does that make us? When my husband gets my sister pregnant. Neither of them answered. Nia had started crying silently, tears streaming down her face. Jerome was staring at his hands like they held the answers to the universe. I'll tell you what it makes us. I continued, my voice dropping lower, colder. It makes you a cheater. I pointed at Jerome. And it makes you a traitor. I pointed at Nia. It makes both of you liars and betrayers who took everything I gave you and threw it back in my face. Jerome, I gave you 15 years of my life. My youth. My devotion. My trust. And Nia. Oh Nia. I gave you even more than that. I gave you a home when you had nothing. I gave you love when you were drowning in grief. I worked myself to exhaustion to pay for your education, your clothes, your dreams. I was your mother when Mama died. I was everything to you. And this is how you repay me? Tamara, please. Nia started, but I held up my hand and she immediately fell silent. No. No. You don't get to talk yet. You don't get to explain or make excuses or try to make me understand. Right now, you get to sit there and listen to me. Because for 8 months you've been doing whatever you wanted behind my back. And now it's my turn. I turned to Jerome. When did it start? Actually, don't answer that. I know when it started. Last July. The weekend of the family reunion at Lake Norman. Nia stayed at our house that weekend. Remember? Because her air conditioning was broken and it was so hot in Charlotte. I told her she could stay as long as she needed. Because that's what family does. We take care of each other. And that Sunday morning, I left early to help Aunt Gloria set up for the barbecue. I asked you to bring Nia later. You said you would. You said you'd take care of my baby sister. Jerome's face had gone from gray to green. He remembered. Of course he remembered. That was the day everything had started. What I didn't know, I continued, my voice shaking now despite my best efforts to stay calm, was that taking care of her meant sleeping with her in our guest bedroom, while I was half an hour away flipping burgers for our family. Did you plan it, Jerome? Or did it just happen? Did you wake up that morning thinking today's the day I betray my wife with her sister? Or did you just see an opportunity and take it like the selfish bastard you are? It wasn't like that. Jerome finally found his voice, hoarse and desperate. It wasn't planned, I swear. It happened. We didn't mean for it to happen. I laughed, and it was a terrible sound, brittle and broken. It just happened. 8 months of affair just happened. Hundreds of text messages just happened. Hotel rooms and restaurant dates and sneaking around just happened. A pregnancy just happened. Is that really the best you can do? I turned to Nia. And you? My God. Nia. You sat across from me at Sunday dinner every week for months, ate the food I cooked, laughed at my jokes, hugged me goodbye, all while carrying on with my husband. How did you do it? How did you look me in the eye? Nia was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. I shouted, my composure finally cracking. You did hurt me. Both of you hurt me in the worst possible way. You didn't just cheat, Jerome. You didn't just have an affair with some random woman. You chose my sister. The one person in the world whose betrayal would destroy me more than anyone else's. And Nia, you didn't just sleep with some random man. You chose my husband. The man I pledged my life to. The man I built a future with. You both looked at everything I'd given you and decided it wasn't enough. You wanted more. You wanted each other. And you took it without any regard for what it would do to me. I stood up abruptly, pacing now, my carefully maintained control shattering with every word. Do you know what the worst part is? It's not even the sex. It's not even the affair. It's the lies. It's the Sunday dinners where you both sat at my table and pretended everything was fine. It's the nights Jerome came home late and kissed me and told me he loved me with your perfume probably still on his clothes, Nia. It's the phone calls where you cried to me about being lonely, about wanting to find a good man while you were sleeping with mine. It's the complete and total disrespect of making a fool out of me in my own life. I walked over to where Nia was sitting and looked down at her. She looked so small, so young, so terrified. Good. She should be terrified. I know about the pregnancy test, I said quietly. I found it in Jerome's car 3 weeks ago. I've been watching, waiting, gathering evidence. And tonight, when I saw your message saying you couldn't abort it, I knew it was time. So I texted you back, Nia. I pretended to be Jerome and I invited you here. And you came running, didn't you? Eager to see him. To talk about your little problem. To figure out your future together. Did you think he was going to leave me for you? Is that what he promised you? Nia's eyes went wide with horror. You texted me? Every word, I confirmed. Come over. Let's talk. My wife isn't home today. We can figure this out together. Did it feel good, Nia? Did it feel exciting to be invited to your sister's house to meet with your sister's husband while you thought she was away? Did you think about me at all? Or were you too busy thinking about your own happiness? I never wanted this. Nia burst out, jumping to her feet. I never wanted to fall in love with him. It just happened. Tamara. I tried to stop it. I tried to stay away. But I love him. I love him and he loves me, and I know that's horrible, and I know it's wrong, but it's the truth. The words hung in the air like poison gas. Love. She said love. Like that made any of this okay. Like love was some kind of magical excuse that absolved them of responsibility for destroying me. You love him, I repeated slowly. You love my husband. The man who's been lying to you the same way he's been lying to me. Tell me, Nia, what makes you think you're special? What makes you think that if he cheated on me with you, he won't cheat on you with someone else? You're not special. You're just convenient. You're young and available, and you worship him, and that fed his ego. But love? That's not love. Baby girl, that's selfishness wrapped up in pretty words. I turned to Jerome. And you? Do you love her? Do you love Nia? Jerome's head was in his hands. He was crying now too, shoulders shaking. I don't know, he choked out. I don't know what I feel. I'm so confused. I never meant for any of this to happen. I love you, Tamara. I love my wife. But Nia, she made me feel young again. Alive. Like I mattered. You matter, I said incredulously. You matter? And what about me, Jerome? Did I not make you feel like you mattered? Did I not support you through graduate school? Did I not work myself to death so you could have your dreams? Did I not build this life with you brick by brick? What more could I have possibly done to make you feel like you mattered? It wasn't about you, he said miserably. You're perfect. You've always been perfect. Maybe that was the problem. I felt like I could never measure up. Like I was always trying to prove myself to you. But with Nia, I didn't have to be perfect. I could just be myself. I stared at him in disbelief. So you're blaming me? You're actually blaming me for your affair, because I was too perfect? Because I loved you too much? Because I worked too hard to give us a good life? That's really the excuse you're going with? It's not an excuse, he said weakly. I'm just trying to explain. There is no explanation. I screamed. There is no reason good enough. You made a choice, Jerome. Every single time you texted her, every time you met up with her, every time you touched her, you made a choice. And you made the wrong one. Over and over and over again for 8 months, you chose her instead of me. You chose to betray me. You chose to risk everything we built together. You chose to destroy our marriage. And now you want me to understand? To forgive you? To believe that this was somehow my fault for being too good to you? I turned back to Nia. And you said you tried to stay away? Really? Because those text messages tell a different story. I miss you. When can I see you again? Last night was amazing. Those don't sound like someone trying to stay away. Those sound like someone who was enjoying every second of betraying her sister. I did try. Nia insisted, tears and snot running down her face now. In the beginning, I tried so hard. I felt so guilty. But he kept pursuing me, kept telling me how special I was, how beautiful, how much he needed me. And I was lonely. Tamara. I've been so lonely since Mama died, and I know that's not an excuse, but it's the truth. With him, I didn't feel alone anymore. So I wasn't enough? I asked, my voice breaking. All those years I took care of you, loved you, was there for you. That wasn't enough? I wasn't enough to make you not feel alone. You had to take the one thing that was mine. You had to take my husband. I didn't mean to, Nia wailed. I never meant to hurt you. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I didn't know how. And then I got pregnant and everything got so complicated and I didn't know what to do. You knew exactly what to do, I said coldly. You knew you should have stayed away from him from the very beginning. You knew you should have respected our marriage. You knew you should have honored our sisterhood. But you didn't. You chose this. You chose him. And now you're pregnant with his baby and you want me to what? Feel sorry for you? Help you figure it out? Stand by you through this? I walked over to the bookshelf and picked up a framed photo from our wedding day. Jerome and me, young and happy and so full of hope for the future. I looked at that photo for a long moment, then turned and threw it across the room. It smashed against the wall, glass shattering, the frame breaking, the image of our happiness destroyed, just like the reality of it had been destroyed. That's what you did to us, I said, my voice deadly quiet now. You took something beautiful and you smashed it into a million pieces. And now you both sit here crying and making excuses, and trying to make me understand. But I don't want to understand. I want you both to feel what I feel. I want you to know what it's like to have everything you believed in torn away in one moment. I pulled out my phone and opened it to the screenshots I'd taken of their messages. I have everything, I told them. Every text, every call log, every bank statement showing hotel charges and restaurant bills. Every piece of evidence of your betrayal. And I'm going to use it. I'm going to take it to a lawyer and I'm going to divorce you, Jerome. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly why. Your family, your friends, your coworkers, everyone. Jerome's head snapped up, panic in his eyes. Tamara, please, you can't. My job. Your job? I laughed harshly. You're worried about your job? You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with your wife's sister. Before you used our joint bank account to pay for hotel rooms. Before you got her pregnant. Actions have consequences, Jerome. You're about to learn that the hard way. I turned to Nia. And you need to leave my house right now. And you need to understand something very clearly. We are no longer sisters. I don't have a sister anymore. My sister died the day she decided to betray me. The woman sitting in front of me is a stranger. A stranger I happened to raise and love and sacrifice for. But that's over now. You're on your own, Nia. You and that baby you're carrying. Please, Nia begged, reaching out toward me. Please don't do this. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please. We're family. We're blood. You can't just cut me out of your life. Watch me, I said coldly. You wanted to be with Jerome so badly? Fine. You can have him. All of him. His lies, his broken promises, his inability to be faithful. You can have the man who'll cheat on his wife with her sister. I'm sure that'll work out great for you. I'm sure you'll never have to worry about him doing to you what he did to me. I'm sure your relationship built on betrayal and lies will be super healthy and stable. I walked to the door and opened it wide. Get out. Now. Before I do something I regret. Nia stood up on shaking legs, clutching her purse to her chest like it could protect her. She looked at Jerome one more time, silently begging him to stop this, to fix this, to do something. But Jerome just sat there, broken and useless. Some protector. Some lover. He couldn't even defend the woman he claimed to care about. Nia walked past me toward the door, and when she got close, I leaned in and whispered in her ear, low enough that only she could hear. Next time you want to visit my husband, call first, because I'm not always going to be out. And Nia? That baby you're carrying? That's your burden now. Don't ever expect me to be Auntie T to your child. Don't expect me to babysit or help out or send birthday cards. You chose this path. You walk it alone. Nia let out a sob and stumbled out the door. I watched her run to her car, fumbling with her keys, finally getting the door open and collapsing into the driver's seat. She sat there for a minute, crying, before she finally started the car and drove away. I stood in the doorway and watched her taillights disappear down the street. And then I closed the door, locked it, and turned around to face my husband. Jerome was standing now, looking at me with desperate, terrified eyes. Tamara, please. We need to talk. Talk? I interrupted. What's left to talk about, Jerome? You got my sister pregnant. You had an 8-month affair. You lied to me every single day. What possible conversation could we have that would change any of that? I can explain. Stop saying that. I shouted. Stop trying to explain. There is no explanation that makes this okay. You didn't just betray our marriage vows. You didn't just cheat on me. You destroyed the relationship between me and my sister. You took the one person I had left from my family and you contaminated that relationship with your selfishness. Naya and I will never be okay again. Never. Even if I somehow found it in my heart to forgive her, things will never be the same between us. And that's on you. That's your fault. I walked to the kitchen, Jerome following behind me like a lost puppy. The dinner he'd made was still sitting out, going cold. All that catfish and greens and mac and cheese that he'd spent hours preparing. All that effort to play the role of good husband while planning to deal with his pregnant mistress later. I grabbed the pot of greens off the stove. It was still warm, heavy with food he'd cooked with such care. And I walked over to the trash can and dumped the entire thing in. The green splattered against the sides of the can, pot liquor seeping out the bottom. Jerome watched in horror. "What are you doing? This is what you did to our marriage," I said, my voice eerily calm now. "You took something good, something I cherished, and you threw it in the trash. You made it worthless. You contaminated it." I picked up the tray of cornbread and threw it in too. Then the mac and cheese. Then the catfish. Piece by piece. "Stop." Jerome lunged forward to grab my arm. "Stop it. You're being crazy." I whirled on him. "Don't you dare call me crazy. Don't you dare act like I'm the problem here. You did this. You made this mess. And I'm done pretending everything is fine. I'm done being the understanding wife who holds everything together. You want to see crazy? I'll show you crazy." I grabbed his phone off the counter and pulled up his text messages with Nia. "Let's see what else is in here, shall we?" I started scrolling, reading messages out loud. "You make me feel alive. I can't stop thinking about your body. Last night was the best sex I've ever had. Wow, Jerome. The best sex you've ever had. I guess our entire 15-year marriage couldn't compete with a few months of sneaking around with a 29-year-old. Tamara, please. And look at this," I continued, scrolling further. "You sent her $500 3 months ago. What was that for? Oh, here it is. For that dress you wanted. You bought my sister a dress, Jerome. With our money. The money I helped earn. The money that was supposed to be for our future. You spent it on your mistress." I kept scrolling, pulling up more and more evidence. $200 for dinner at Morton's. That's where you said you took your boss for a business dinner last month, remember? You came home and told me all about your business dinner. Was Nia good at pretending to be a client? Did she enjoy the filet mignon you bought her with money from our joint account? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I screamed, throwing his phone across the kitchen. It hit the wall and fell to the floor, screen cracking. "Tell me, Jerome. Tell me exactly what it was like. Tell me how you justified it to yourself. Tell me how you looked me in the eye every single day and lied." Jerome was crying now. Actually crying, tears streaming down his face. I don't know. I don't know how it happened. It started so small. Just flirting. Just enjoying her attention. And then it got out of control and I didn't know how to stop. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop. "You couldn't stop," I repeated flatly. "You couldn't stop texting her. Couldn't stop meeting her. Couldn't stop sleeping with her. Couldn't stop getting her pregnant. You just couldn't help yourself. Is that really your defense? That you had no self-control? That you're just a weak man who can't resist temptation? I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Tamara. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you. I've always loved you. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this," I said, my voice breaking despite my efforts to stay strong. "If you loved me, you would have told that first flirty text from Nia to stop. If you loved me, you would have shut it down before it started. If you loved me, you would have protected our marriage instead of destroying it." I grabbed my purse from the counter and pulled out the papers I'd prepared earlier that day, before I'd even seen Nia's text about the pregnancy. Divorce papers. I'd had them drawn up a week ago, just waiting for the right moment to serve them. "I want a divorce," I said, placing the papers on the counter between us. "I want you out of this house. I want my share of everything we've built together. And I want you to know that you lost the best thing that ever happened to you because you couldn't keep it in your pants." Jerome looked at the papers like they were a death sentence. No, please, Tamara, don't do this. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll do anything. I'll cut off all contact with Nia. I'll change jobs if I have to. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Please don't give up on us." "I'm not giving up on us," I said quietly. "You gave up on us the day you started sleeping with my sister. I'm just accepting the reality of what you did. But I love you," he pleaded, reaching for my hands. I pulled away before he could touch me. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging you. Please give me another chance. One more chance to prove that I can be the husband you deserve. You had 15 years of chances," I told him. 15 years, to be faithful, to honor our vows, To love me the way you promised you would. And you threw it all away. For what? For some excitement? For an ego boost? Because you felt old and wanted to feel young again? Whatever the reason, it wasn't worth it. And now you have to live with what you've done. I picked up my overnight bag that I'd packed earlier and hidden in the coat closet. Jerome's eyes widened when he saw it. You're leaving? I'm staying with my friend Simone tonight, I told him. And tomorrow, you're going to call a lawyer and start the process of dividing up our assets. Because I'm done, Jerome. I'm done with this marriage. I'm done with your lies. I'm done with all of it. What about Nia? He asked desperately. What about the baby? That's not my problem, I said coldly. That's between you and her. You two figure it out. Maybe you'll end up together, raising that baby, living happily ever after. Or maybe you'll realize that a relationship built on betrayal and lies is doomed from the start. Either way, it has nothing to do with me anymore. I walked toward the door, and Jerome followed me, still begging, still crying, still trying to change my mind. But my mind was made up, my heart was made up. I'd given him everything I had. And he'd thrown it away. There was nothing left to salvage. Tamara, please, he said one more time as I opened the door. Don't leave like this. Don't walk away from 15 years of marriage without even trying to fix it. I turned to look at him one last time. The man I'd loved for so long. The man I'd built a life with. The man I'd trusted with my whole heart. And I felt nothing. No love. No hate. Just a vast emptiness where all my feelings for him used to be. You walked away from us a long time ago, I said softly. I'm just making it official. Goodbye, Jerome. And then I left. I walked out of that house, got in my car, and drove away from the life I'd thought I had. I didn't look back. There was nothing back there worth seeing anymore. I drove to Simone's apartment across town, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel, tears finally streaming down my face now that I was alone. All the anger I'd held in, all the pain I'd controlled so carefully while facing them, it all came pouring out now. I sobbed so hard I had to pull over twice because I couldn't see through my tears. When I finally got to Simone's place, she was waiting outside for me. I'd texted her earlier, told her everything, asked if I could stay. She'd immediately said yes, of course. Stay as long as you need. Simone had been my best friend since college, had been my maid of honor at my wedding, had been there through everything. If anyone could help me through this, it was her. She opened my car door and pulled me into a hug before I'd even fully gotten out. I collapsed against her and just cried. Cried for my broken marriage. Cried for my lost sister. Cried for the future I'd thought I was going to have. Cried for the naive woman I'd been just 2 weeks ago who trusted everyone and believed love was enough. I've got you, Simone murmured, holding me tight. I've got you, girl. You're going to be okay. I promise you're going to be okay. But I didn't feel like I was going to be okay. I felt like I'd been shattered into a million pieces and I didn't know how to put myself back together. Over the next few days, Simone helped me start the process of rebuilding my life. She was a lawyer, thankfully, specializing in family law. She looked over all the evidence I'd collected, the screenshots, the bank statements, everything, and she nodded grimly. This is going to be ugly, she told me. But you're going to win. He used joint funds for his affair. He's got his mistress pregnant. Any judge is going to side with you on this. I don't care about winning, I told her. I just want it to be over. I want him out of my life. You should care about winning, Simone said firmly. Because winning means getting what you deserve financially. It means making sure you're set up for your future. And it means making sure he pays a price for what he did. So we got to work. Simone helped me file for divorce, helped me separate our bank accounts, helped me document everything for the court. And then she suggested something I hadn't even thought of. Your father needs to know, she said gently. And so does your church community. They deserve to know the truth about what happened. The thought of telling my father made me feel sick. Vernon Washington, 72 years old, retired postal worker, deacon at Mount Zion Baptist Church. The man who'd walked me down the aisle and given me away to Jerome with tears in his eyes. The man who'd told Jerome, you better take care of my girl or you'll answer to me. How was I supposed to tell him that Jerome hadn't taken care of me at all, that he betrayed me with his other daughter? But Simone was right. He needed to know. They all needed to know. Because Nia was going to start showing soon. And rumors would spread. And I'd rather control the narrative than let people make up their own stories. So I called my father, asked him to come over to Simone's apartment, told him I needed to talk to him about something important. When he arrived, looking worried, I sat him down and I told him everything. Every painful detail. I watched my father's face go through every emotion. Shock, disbelief, anger, grief. When I got to the part about the pregnancy, about how Nia was carrying Jerome's baby, my father made a sound like he'd been punched in the gut. He doubled over, hands on his knees, breathing hard. "My baby girl," he said, his voice cracking. "My Nia. How could she do this to you? How could she betray her own sister?" "I don't know, Daddy," I said, crying again. "I don't know." My father looked up at me with tears in his eyes. "And Jerome. That boy. I trusted him. I loved him like a son. I welcomed him into our family. And this is how he repays us? I'm sorry," I said, even though I had nothing to be sorry for. "I'm so sorry." "You have nothing to be sorry for," my father said fiercely, pulling me into his arms. "You did nothing wrong. This is on them. This is on Jerome. And on Nia. And they're going to have to live with what they've done." My father was true to his word. He called Nia that very day and told her he was ashamed of her, that what she'd done was unforgivable, that she'd destroyed her relationship with her sister, and by extension, damaged her relationship with him too. Nia apparently broke down on the phone, begging for forgiveness, but my father had hung up on her. The news spread through our church community like wildfire. By Sunday, everyone knew. The looks I got at church ranged from pity to outrage to sadness. Several of the church mothers came up to me and hugged me, told me they were praying for me, told me I was handling this with grace and dignity. Pastor Johnson pulled me aside after service and told me the church was there for me, whatever I needed. Jerome and Nia both stopped coming to church. Couldn't face the judgment, I suppose. Couldn't handle everyone knowing what they'd done. Good. Let them hide. Let them feel the shame they should have felt from the beginning. 3 months later, we were in court for the divorce proceedings. Jerome looked terrible. He'd lost weight, looked like he hadn't slept in weeks, wore a suit that hung off his frame. Nia was there too, sitting in the back of the courtroom. She was visibly pregnant now, about 6 months along, her belly round and obvious under a loose dress. The judge was a black woman in her 50s, Judge Thompson, and she did not look impressed as Simone laid out the evidence of Jerome's affair. The text messages, the bank statements, the timeline of the relationship. When Simone called Nia to the stand as a witness, I saw Jerome flinch. Nia walked up to the stand on shaking legs, placed her hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. Simone was gentle but firm with her questions. "Miss Baker, are you pregnant?" "Yes," Nia whispered. "How far along are you?" 6 months. "And who is the father of your baby?" Nia's eyes filled with tears. She looked at me, silently begging me to make this stop. But I sat there stone-faced, giving her nothing. She'd made her choices. Now she had to live with them. "Jerome Washington," she finally said, her voice barely audible. "The defendant?" Simone clarified. "Miss Washington's husband?" "Yes." "And how long were you in a relationship with the defendant?" "About 8 months before I got pregnant." "And during that time, were you aware that he was married to your sister?" "Yes," Nia said, tears streaming down her face now. Simone had mercy on her then and let her step down. But the damage was done. Judge Thompson had heard enough. When it came time to divide assets, she ruled heavily in my favor. I got 65% of the proceeds from the house sale, full restitution of the money Jerome had spent on the affair, half of his $401K, and my car free and clear. When the papers were signed and it was official, I felt nothing. No triumph. No vindication. Just emptiness. Jerome tried to approach me as I was leaving the courthouse, but Simone stepped between us. "You don't get to talk to her," Simone said firmly. "You lost that right." Jerome's lawyer pulled him away, and I walked out of that courthouse a free woman. Divorced. Single. Alone. But free. 6 months after the divorce, Nia had her baby. A boy. I heard about it through my father, who despite everything, had gone to the hospital to meet his grandson. He told me the baby was healthy, that Nia had named him Marcus, and that Jerome had been there for the birth. Are they together? I asked. Not sure why I cared. My father shook his head. Jerome came for the birth, set up child support. But no, they're not together. I think they realize that a relationship built on betrayal doesn't have a strong foundation. I nodded. I could have told them that. I could have saved them the trouble of learning it the hard way. But they wouldn't have listened. People never do. My father tried to get me to meet the baby, to be an aunt to little Marcus. But I refused. That child is innocent. I told him, but I can't. I can't look at him without seeing everything that was taken from me. I can't be Auntie T to the baby my husband made with my sister. I just can't. My father understood. He didn't push. And slowly, over time, we rebuilt our relationship, just the two of us. He still saw Nia occasionally, for the baby's sake, but things between them were strained. She'd broken something in our family that couldn't be repaired. As for me, I focused on rebuilding my life. I bought myself a small townhouse in a quiet neighborhood, decorated it exactly the way I wanted, with no compromises. I threw myself into my work and got promoted to senior director. I started going to therapy to work through the trauma of betrayal. I joined a book club for Black women, made new friends, found new hobbies, and slowly, very slowly, I started to heal. One day, about a year after the divorce was finalized, I got a message on Facebook from a woman I didn't know. Her profile picture was a sunflower. The message said, "I don't know if you remember me, but we met briefly at a conference last year. I just wanted to reach out and tell you that your story gave me the courage to leave my abusive marriage. Someone shared your story anonymously on a support forum, and reading about your strength and how you handled your situation made me realize I could be strong too. Thank you for being brave enough to walk away. You saved my life." I sat there reading that message over and over, tears streaming down my face. Not tears of sadness this time, but something else. Something that felt almost like purpose. My pain had meant something. My story had helped someone else find the courage to save themselves. I wrote back to her, thanked her for sharing that with me, and we ended up becoming online friends. She introduced me to a whole community of women who'd survived betrayal and abuse and had rebuilt their lives. Women who understood what I'd been through because they'd been through it too. Women who didn't judge me for cutting off my sister or divorcing my husband or refusing to have a relationship with their baby. Women who understood that sometimes, love isn't enough. Sometimes, you have to choose yourself. Now, a year and a half after that terrible night when Nia showed up at my door, I'm 43 years old. I'm single. I'm independent. And I'm happy. Not the naive, trusting happiness I had before. This is different. Harder. More real. It's the happiness that comes from knowing you survived the worst thing you could imagine and came out the other side. I still see my father regularly. We have dinner every Sunday, just the two of us. And we don't talk about Nia or Jerome or the baby. We talk about his garden, about my job, about the trips we're planning together. He's getting older, and I treasure every moment with him. I haven't spoken to Nia since that night at my house. She's tried to reach out a few times, sent letters that I returned unopened, left voicemails that I deleted without listening. My father says she's struggling as a single mother, that Jerome helps with child support but isn't really present, that she regrets everything. But her regret doesn't change what she did. It doesn't give me back the sister I lost. It doesn't repair the trust that was broken. Some people think I'm too harsh. They say family is family, that I should forgive, that I should at least meet my nephew. But those people weren't betrayed by their baby sister and their husband. They don't know what it's like to have the two people you loved most in the world conspire against you. They don't get to tell me how to handle my pain. I learned something through all of this. I learned that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. I learned that the title of husband or sister doesn't mean someone will treat you with respect. I learned that sometimes, The people who should protect you are the ones who hurt you the most, and I learned that walking away from toxicity, even when it's wrapped up in the package of family, is not only okay, it's necessary for survival. Sitting on my balcony tonight, glass of wine in hand, city lights spread out before me, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from having everything you want. The kind of peace that comes from accepting what is and choosing to move forward anyway. My name is Tamara Washington. I'm 43 years old. I survived the double betrayal of my husband and my sister. And I'm here to tell you, if you're going through something similar, you will survive too. It won't be easy. There will be nights when the pain is so intense you don't think you can breathe through it. There will be moments when you question everything, when you wonder if you're being too harsh, too unforgiving, too cold. But here's what I know now that I didn't know then. You are not too harsh for having boundaries. You are not too unforgiving for refusing to accept betrayal. You are not too cold for choosing yourself over people who chose to hurt you. You are just someone who learned the hard way that not everyone deserves a place in your life, no matter what their title is. And that freedom, that knowledge, that peace that comes from knowing you will never again compromise your worth for anyone, that's worth more than any relationship built on lies. So if this story touched your heart, if you've lived through something similar, if you're trying to decide whether to stay or go, whether to forgive or walk away, I want you to know you're not alone. Comment below and tell me what city you're watching from. Tell me your story if you want to share it. Let's build a community of survivors who chose themselves, who walked away from betrayal, who refused to accept less than they deserved. If this story helped you in any way, please hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story. And if you're able, send a super thanks to support this channel and help me keep bringing these stories to you. Every bit of support means the world and helps me continue this work. On your screen right now, you'll see 2 more powerful stories that I think you'll love. Stories of survival, of justice, of women who refuse to be broken by betrayal. Watch those next. Let these stories remind you that you are stronger than you think. Remember this: you deserve loyalty. You deserve respect. You deserve people in your life who choose you every single day, not just when it's convenient. And if someone can't give you that, no matter who they are, no matter what their title is, you have every right to walk away. Until next time, this is my story. This is Tamara's story. With love and respect, I'm sending you strength for whatever battle you're fighting. You've got this. I promise you, you've got this. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me share my pain in the hope that it might ease yours. Take care of yourselves out there. You're worth it.